The 7.62 MDR is one of Tarkov's favoured guns, but is it still worth it? Today we'll check out how it fares against the closest comparisons of the SCAR H and the FAL to see how it's holding up. Now, the MDR is not as easily accessible as the SCAR because, unlike the X17 lower that we talked about last week, the MDR is locked to high-level traders on Peacekeeper, Mechanic or Ref, all at level 4 and isn't on the flea market at all. The basic version from Peacekeeper costs about 195,000 rubles, so it is quite expensive, with the kitted Mechanic one at 290k instead, with the advantage to this version being that you get a 25 rounder mag for free with it, which typically costs between 60 to 90k rubles on the flea market on its own, depending on when you look. The grip and the sight here are okay, but the tactical device is one that people don't tend to use very often, and the suppressor is more of a budget recoil choice. Despite having the second best recoil of all of the 7.62 suppressors, it has the worst ergonomics of all of them. Interestingly, this probably makes it alright on the MDR, as of the full auto 7.62 NATO weapons, this is the one with the least ergo problems. The Ref version has got an SE5 grip, which is pretty nice, but the suppressor is a Gemtech 1, which is one of the worst suppressors in the game for recoil. Relatively good for ergonomics, but it makes the recoil that much harder to control on the MDR, which we can't really afford to give up. So of course, we want to make mention of the 50 rounder that I spoke about for the new SCAR last week, and the MDR can take this as well. It's creeping up in price to nearly 100k now through the Mechanic 4 barter, and it does provide a lot of firepower, but with the MDR's limited modding ability, it is difficult to create a suppressed build without overswing whilst using this magazine. I previously thought that this was impossible, but I did actually figure out a way of doing it, and this is one way, is using the Hybrid 46 suppressor and the SI Cobra foregrip along with a Bravo and a delta point on top. This is a very ergonomic combination, and the one thing you do have to get rid of is basically adding some tactical device on the side. You still do have to use the cantilever mount, but you can push it very slightly further than this and add something like a WMX200 if you want to. You basically can't downgrade the Cobra at all. If you want to put this back to the AFG M-Lock, you will start to see overswing. If I go and show you this in the hideout, you'll see here that there is no overswing when we use this gun. You get the very slight snap, but that happens on some weapons. We're right on the threshold here. This is basically as far as you can take it. As a reminder, overswing is a feature of weapons that have too much weight and too little ergonomics as a combination. You can see this happen on the MDR here if I attach the Meta suppressor, the QDC, and a 50 rounder at the same time. This does greatly affect your ability to ADS quickly, but on the flip side, it matters a lot less if you're using point fire a lot, and also if you're shooting over long ranges where you get a bit more time to react. Just before we continue, today's video is sponsored by Factor 75, providing you with delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You can choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including some of the most popular such as Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also, discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and drinks to help cover all of your bases and feel good all day long about both what you're eating and your wallet. Everyone knows just how expensive takeout has become these days. Factor is cheaper and tastier, bringing you restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door. As they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, this means more time for doing the things that you love. And if you're anything like me, that is certainly not cooking. One of the best parts is that when things get hectic, Factor is flexible. Change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause and reschedule your deliveries anytime. As added peace of mind, with Factor you can be sure that you're making a sustainable choice too. Factor offsets 100% of delivery emissions and sources 100% renewable electricity for both their production sites and offices, so it's better for you and the planet. Get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. It also helps to support the channel, so thanks to everyone who's signed up so far. So the overswing can be calculated on the website dbfortarkov.com/gun if you want to get an idea of this before buying a weapon and trying it out for yourself in the hideout. All you have to do is search for a weapon, pick it from the list, and then put the mods on that you require, and you'll see there's a little calculation up here that gives you a very good indication of whether there will be overswing or not. I'll put some links to the builds that I feature in this video below so you can just load them in directly. The way that this works is a slightly different formulation of ergonomics, which is referred to as Evo Ergo, which is ergonomics evolved, and this takes into account the weight of attachments as well as their ergonomics. So for example, a suppressor like the Thunderbeast has more Evo Ergo than you might imagine because it is much lighter than the other suppressors. This combination of weight and ergonomics is what drives things like ADS speed and overswing, and is the reason why the AFG M-Lock grips are basically identical to the SE5 despite them being a lot cheaper and having one less ergo, because they have a lot less weight and they also don't need a rail to attach them in most cases. If you still want to use the 50 rounder, the loud build with the BMD device will work though, so it's a choice as to whether you prefer an unsuppressed playstyle with a lot of ammo behind, or to go for something more flexible and either deal with the overswing or downgrade the magazine capacity to something smaller. As we saw, this is slightly easier with the MDR because one of the builds just comes with the 25 rounder, but to be honest, you can play pretty well with just a 20 rounder on either this or the SCAR as well, simply because the fire rate is only 650 on both of these weapons, and they pack an extreme punch regardless because of the ammunition that they use. The MDR can be built in a basically meta configuration with the 25 rounder, and avoid overswing with the QDC suppressor, and an LPVO like the Voodoo, which is extremely powerful and is probably best in slot for this gun in general. It has a pretty quick ADS speed at 9 frames before the reticle appears on screen, but with recoil of 93, you are making some compromises on how controllable the weapon is when you hold down the trigger. I think the MDR is still pretty strong because of how flexible it is, but you don't want to rely on spraying out full magazines at medium distance, and it's better to use it in controlled bursts to save on ammo and increase accuracy, especially if you are solo. Compared to the SCAR H suppressed builds, which I'm going to focus on here, I do think that you just have to accept some overswing with the X17, even whilst using the 25 rounder, but for that compromise you get much less vertical recoil. The X17 SCAR with the CQR foregrip comes to 70 vertical recoil instead, so it is much more suited to firing on full auto, but it can be a little bit more unwieldy if you get caught by surprise. One of the main reasons why people dislike the SCAR continues to this day, which is how it looks on screen if you compare these two screenshots together between the SCAR and the MDR, and you can easily see just how much more of the screen the SCAR blocks, which can actually block out players and stop you from seeing them sometimes. It sits way higher in the shoulder, and it is quite distracting. This is especially so whilst running downhill, for example, where the weapons block even more of the screen than normal. So what about the SA58? There's absolutely no way to get the SA58 to perform snappily with a 50 round drum without going loud, because it is just too cumbersome and too heavy, but there is a medium barrel build that just allows you to scrape through using 30 rounders and a red dot. This gives you a slightly slower ADS speed than the MDR and the SCAR, and still leaves recoil at 97, which is about as uncontrollable as the MDR, and slightly more so because of the higher fire rate. I think there is a place for the SA58, but this tends to be at closer ranges, using a red dot where the faster fire rate has more of an impact and fewer downsides from the rest of the build. Just for demonstration purposes, the lowest recoil that the SA58 can get down to now is 79, and that's with a build that you probably would never make. This is extremely low ergonomics, even if you don't use a drum, so I personally think that if you're looking purely at recoil, then the SCAR H is a better choice. So overall, what's my verdict for the MDR? Well, I've actually been enjoying using the MDR quite a lot, and it feels less cumbersome than the SCAR, and it's easier to use inside. It can take the same amazing ammo of M61, and these days it has a decent selection of magazines depending on what you want to do. Yes, the recoil isn't quite as good, but I think for the way that the weapon feels, it's still a very strong contender at the top levels of Tarkov gunplay. So next up, let's go and check out a few clips of the MDR in action. Okay. And an arse-ass. Little Tagilla figurine. Anyone else know Baby Bell? Actually, I do have a funny story about a Baby Bell. My wife came back from France, and I quite like Baby Bells. And she came back from France this one time, and she got stopped going through the airport for having liquids in her bag. And she opened up the bag, and inside was a actual bell, like proper, not baby, like Baby Bell is like a mini one, right? Like a proper, like, and they're like this big. They're like a proper like wheel of cheese, but it's the same kind of stuff. So it's not, it's like kind of plasticky sort of cheese, right? It's like a just sort of low quality mild cheese. And French customs basically took it out, and they just went, they were like, "This is not cheese. Ugh, this is not cheese. You can't have you can't take this. This is not cheese." So that's like try to persuade them that this thing was in fact a piece of cheese, because the French would just like not accept it. Oh. Yeah, someone's sniping for sure. Whether they're up or just like on the other side. They could be... I didn't think... From the sound of it, I didn't think they were in dome, per se. He's up here somewhere. Is he just down there? Traded places? I know. Probably gonna... Wait, I didn't bring a... Oh no, did I not bring a... Oh crap. Didn't bring a CMS. You think he's dead? I don't think he's dead. I mean, he could be. I mean, he did mysteriously go quiet, but I mean... Oh no, he is dead. Okay. He is dead, good. M700, man. Fun fight, at least. Can someone spawn over here if I spawn over there? Don't really want to loot there. I mean, that's one chumming kill. Oh, dude, like, what? What kind of spawn is this? It's just like... Detail spawn. I mean, they're just hard to deal with. Marine car is closed at the minute, still. So there is that. Really? Are we for real? I mean, so, someone's shooting at me before we've even crested over the hill. I mean, he could have heard me, but like, maybe he just saw like a clip of me jumping. Like, I mean, to be fair, there's basically no vertical audio, right? If I'm jumping up there, like, there's no occlusion on Lighthouse. I mean, it seemed weird to me, right? It's like clairvoyantly accurate shots against someone who's not even crested yet, just using sound. It's possible, right? Like, I always harken back to the time when I played Arena that one time, and I was like, how did that guy even see me? This was in the early days of playing Arena as well, and I was like, how did that guy even see me? And basically went to the replay, and he saw my like boonie hat, not boonie hat, sorry, the like whatever it's called, the one that you use for dandies, poking out before I leant round, and I was like, oh, I see. But I mean, it does sound weird, because it's just kind of sad. I seem very unbothered who's being shot at. Well, I mean, he wouldn't have been able to hear anything for a start. So that doesn't help, because I'm so far away. It was only when he actually got hit that he started to move his ass. He would have heard the impacts maybe, as long as he was playing correctly. He's baiting. So how about finding those CFDM radios? Duo or solo? I actually don't even know. Could be either. What happened? Did you die? No? Still here. Might be the guy who shot him, but not the guy shooting through the mountain. It didn't sound like two people. It sounded like one person. Could be another one. Maybe he was like... we were watching or something. Definitely could be. It's very dubious. Shotgun guy. If I lie down, I'm just going to die, I think. Yeah, 100%. I mean, this raid is just like not gonna work. There's just no way. Oh, he's got a thermal. I'm surprised he didn't shoot me before. I guess he was just waiting. Oh, great. Right, let's try not to get killed by this spawn over here. God, the amount of time people wait over here. This is a difficult like path to go down. I've got to go down it though because I need to mark the I need to mark the thing. I just feel like the lack of play styles that are valid on this map is what makes it bad. That's what I don't like about it. I feel like you have very little agency as to like what to do. You pretty much have to play like a camping kind of sniping style. Otherwise, you just die. And that's because of the way the spawns work and stuff. Like if you say, oh, screw it. Like on woods, right? On woods, I feel like you can be like, I'm going to go red dot and it's fine. I'm going to use the lay of the land and I'm going to move around in a sensible way. And I'm going to get my edge that way. Whereas on Lighthouse, it's just like, you just can't. This section's really rough in general. I got to mark this, so we're just going to have to go for it. And if someone's here, then so be it. Let's run back this way. Don't want to be stood in the middle of nowhere for 30 seconds. I'd rather be here, even if it means I have to cross again. What is Tarkov's most OP craft? M61, baby. M61. They brought it back. Yep. I don't know why, but they did. So this person just got Lighthoused through no fault of their own. I'm sorry. You're not sorry? Well, I'm sorry for them for playing the map, mainly. Look how it zeroed the plate. Yeah. Absolutely annihilates the plate. Like class 5, it just doesn't stand a chance. It genuinely doesn't even stand a chance. So next up, if you haven't seen it already, go and check out my video on the Scar H for one of the best recalls you can get in 7.6.2 NATO using the new lower, the X17. Otherwise, as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.